Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Anuanum adofo, anuanum Ghana for. Babia wo bia. Besro Nyankopon adom no nhyira edema. Besro tumfo Nyankopon so onye wo kese na de wo pe bia no Nyankopon oma wo sanka. Meda wase bia sa woni mi tu sa anamoyi. Sa video em se neto so miensa. In this video, we're going to address one particular issue. We're going to address the approach to belief. We're going to address epistemology. Now, me ma won fa to kitwa bi. O sorry anopa o hu mfa. O na me yo basa. Ana obu ketem. Nas ma me fa me hu nkohwem na me nkope doctor bi a obetimi ayere. Apoa me. Ana akọ doctor. What the doctor anymore? Na doctor no show. No pagya ni ti hwe so. O sa hwe wanim. Aseme be free doctor yenu aba no say. Wonya cancer. Na sa o mame 1,000 Ghana. And also mame 10,000 Ghana. Oho beto sisi a. Would you accept this? After all, he's a doctor. He's telling you that would 1,000 Ghana manwa. Oho beto sisi a. Would you accept this? Would you accept this idea from the doctor? Definitely you will not. Definitely you ask questions. Doctor, onyina so pa anything. Doctor na say, no. Me tiatenka wo me mu. Me tiatenka bi wo me mu. From my own feelings, I can feel, say, when you cancer. Now the 10,000 Ghana mamia. Who but told is here? Doesn't make sense. Why is the doctor asking you $1,000 or £1,000 or 1,000 Ghana? Why is that? Why would that be able to kill you? So you ask questions. Let me give you another analogy. Let's take a high school or an SSS student or when a mass exam. Maybe on calculus or maybe on integration or maybe on a simple quadratic question where he has to use a quadratic formula. So he needs to be able to write down maybe x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. He writes this formula down and be able to dissect the problem. He doesn't do that. He closes his eyes, he looks to the skies, and then an answer pops in his head, and then he writes this answer down as his final answer. Do you think this is a correct way of doing things? Do you think this child, akwalawe no, obe passing exam and also on passing? That is not the correct methodology. Say, these are very simple, basic analogies. Why are you bringing all this up? Well, me person me try to see bibi so. Say, our everyday life issues, be we to say, yaria how now they are doctor how. Now the doctor can be reached based on his feelings, without letting you do any examination, say blood test or anything. Then you're looking at your face, says, bring me 1,000 cities. And then you're going to get cured. And he's going to just say to you, say, I get this idea from my feelings, emotions. Not saying just had in India. a thing and important things in life, like the basis of our belief, the foundations of our beliefs. You better see emotions and feelings. So I said, just say, oh, baby, say, pray, say. I didn't know what you said, dear Wady. And I said, didn't know if he said, oh, I come a shessa, dear Wemusa. Say, Yamasum. And I said, dear. I said, oh, man, I've seen a lot of people doing it. That's why I'm also doing it. Maybe to say, Mamma and Papa, you want me to move. I don't know, a cramoni, and I said, me a Christian. And I saw back catch, I say, Makuma mono, Makuma, me feel say, what I'm doing is correct. So if you cannot accept the doctor's answer that is based on his feeling and emotions, and he's telling you, so when you're cancer, and that's the one accept it, sir. How would you base your critical foundations of your belief on emotions? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So, we have the mind, the reason faculty, and then we have our emotions. These two things, any idea who is here when you pay. And Imam Ghazali, rahmahullah alayhi, Omayem Fatuhubi, very, very beautiful analogy. Was it the mind and our emotions? They are like, the mind is like the jockey, the rider, obi or kaponko. And our emotions and our feelings, and then a ponkono jockey netinson. Now, so what jai ponkono say onkwa, he will move different ways and he will be confused. And I said, what jai jockey nunkwa so say onko babi or person okwa. It be taking a long time to get to his final destination. And the Imam Ghazali was saying the correct situation is a situation where the jockey, all right, he rides the horse. I.e., the mind should be used to guide our emotions and our feelings, not the other way around. We don't use our emotions to direct the mind. I.e., the emotions or feelings shouldn't direct our thoughts. Rather, our thoughts and our thinking should guide us in terms of the way we use our feelings and our emotions. Okay? So based on this thinking, this idea, lead us into the big word that we want to deal with today, the big word in philosophy called epistemology. What is epistemology? It's a very, very basic thinking. What it simply means is the theory of knowledge. Epistemology means the theory of knowledge. In other words, the method by which you come to establish the knowledge that you have, so that the step-by-step approach that you follow, once you come to that knowledge and you are telling people about that knowledge that you have come about with, and you tell them the step-by-step, they will be able to use it to check whether your knowledge is correct or incorrect. So epistemology is a way to knowledge, and it's a method. So by that method, we will be able to analyze and say whether your knowledge is based on rational, ideas, or it is just irrational. It doesn't make sense. So that is what epistemology is all about. Now, if you look through history, there were two types, there were two groups of theories of knowledge. Two groups of theorists of knowledge. The first group is called the empiricists, and the second group is called the rationalists. The empiricists, the omono chirene say, ekwaye faso enya nimdie, eni say, we have to experience. We have to experience our environment. So we can only use our five senses, right? The sense of touch, the sense of hearing, right? The sense of smelling, all the five senses. They are the only means by which we can come to knowledge. This is the basis of the thinking of the empiricists. So the empiricists will argue that we don't come with any knowledge. So they say the brain is a tabula rasa. In other words, it's a blank slate. There's nothing in our brain when we are born. We don't come with any knowledge. Or it's an empty vessel, they will say. So it is our experience of our world and the world around us and our touching and our feelings and our smell. This is what leads us into trying to understand the world around us. Okay, so this is the position of the empiricists. Then comes the second group, the rationalists. The rationalists, they argue that no, the empiricists are wrong. Because when we are born, we come with innate knowledge. We come with previous information. Our brain is not empty. So we use that brain to be able to look at things and be able to analyze those things. So within this group of rationalists, there is also a subdivision. One group of the rationalists, say, and that's almost thinking, say, the human mind can be used to answer all questions. It can be used to solve all problems. All that we got to do is to be able to think deep about any problem. Then we are able to develop logical and correct arguments. Once we achieve that, and this is something they call syllogism, right? Once we're able to achieve that, we'll be able to then lead ourselves into examining things and then reach truth about everything. So they say we can use the mind to answer all questions, including physics and metaphysics. What does that mean? Physics is just the physical environment. Everything that was our universe, the world that we live in, we can use the brain to be able to understand it and solve every problem. Metaphysics is the world beyond our own world. In other words, the abstract world, the world beyond the world after our own world. We will also be able to use the brain to be able to understand it. The other group of the rationalists, the other rationalists, they also maintain that yes, we are born with innate knowledge. Your brain is not a tabula rasa. It's not an empty vessel. We have previous information. But the brain is limited. We cannot answer all questions by just using our brain and analyzing everything to conclusion. So the brain, according to them, is limited. The other half of the rationalists, they argue that the brain can be used to answer every question. Okay? So the empiricists also. Okay. The empiricists, they maintain that the human brain, when you are born, comes with nothing. It is through experience, touching, feeling, smelling, right? Tasting. These 5 senses is the only way by which we come to knowledge. This leads us on to the scientific method. So the empiricists, they develop the idea of the scientific method. So the scientific method is a method that is used to examine the world around it, the world that is physical, the world we can smell, observe, taste, touch. The scientific method is used to be able to do it. So the atheist, the one who doesn't believe in the existence of God, what they say is that anything in this world that you cannot use the scientific method to prove, it doesn't exist. A lie. And you're not correct. Okay? So, when the empiricists, or those who use the scientific method, when they say there is no evidence that God exists, they need there's no evidence. What they are actually saying is that we cannot use the scientific method, okay, to prove the existence of God. That is what they're actually saying. But they try to generalize it and say that we cannot prove God. We cannot examine God. We cannot observe Him through the scientific method, and therefore God doesn't exist. Okay? So that is the position that the atheist who has adopted this methodology of the scientific method, that is their argument. Okay? So this question, this idea of epistemology, theory of knowledge, how do we come to knowledge, methods and methodology of trying to reach a particular kind of knowledge, it's a very, 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 very credible, it's a very, very important idea. And when I've had discussions in my debate with people about proof of God, with anybody, what I try to examine is the person. Is the person coming from the angle of empiricism? Does he believe that the empiricism or the scientific method is the only way of proving God? Before even I get on to be able to develop and show to the person and expose that no, the scientific method is not the only way to prove the existence of God. And then you then expose the person to the other ways. Now, if you look at the idea that the empiricists argue that the scientific method is the only method that we use to prove anything that we want to prove. From this idea, 2 axioms can be derived. One is what I've mentioned, that they are saying to us that the scientific method is the only method, is the only valid method of proving any knowledge. Number 2, the atheists, they argue that one day, science will be able to answer all questions. Science will be able to answer all questions. But the question is, let me say, the idea, the statement that science answers all questions, is it itself scientifically proven, verifiable statement? It's not. Nobody can research the idea that science itself one day will be able to solve all problems. It's not scientific. That itself, the question itself, it's not scientific. So the point that we are making here is that understanding epistemology, if you want to understand and be able to show clearly that God exists, then you need to be able to analyze the scientific method in detail, expose it, show that it is very limited, and be able to try and dissect it, and then prove to people that it is not the only way of coming to knowledge. There are other ways. So in the next video, we're going to focus on the scientific method, expose it, try to analyze its basic tenets, and be able to reach a conclusion and answer the question, the science, does it solve all problems? Does it answer all questions? And then in the fourth video, we will then, once we have shown that science is very limited and there are certain specific things that you can use a scientific method to solve, and not all problems that we face in this world. Then the next video after what we're going to do next, we will then be able to use the rational method to be able to prove the existence of God. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mesro, sabo modern, so we'll follow that video. Now the next one also will follow, and then you see where we are going with this argument. So when you na onye nyina etu anamon se obesua bibi yesu esua bibi afiri ho na ye nyina etimi ato adwene ne ye hu nokure wom se onyankopon na yesom no no e wonyina so ne etimi anya kokuduro ama enyam som so atimi asipi onyankopon onhyira wa yom so fo Sulleyman bi onyankopon onye okese omo ye nyina mfa ebo nchen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.